This is JORCATION. Welcome to another video. Now today is on the blueprint of trading profitably. Now, when it comes to trading, it's a very tricky subject because everybody has their own risk capacity. There are people who can risk. In some people's eyes, it might be an astonishing amount of money. You could be in the five figures, four figures, dollars. It can be in the six figures. People are willing to risk whatever they can kind of afford, if you understand what I'm trying to say. But this video is to highlight how you can be as profitable as you can in the most short time frame as well, and you can be the most profitable. Now, you want to focus more on the percentages wise. Now, people are going to say, oh, Jordan, why would you say percentages? When you're focused on making money, this is a game essentially where you're trying to make as much money as you can. But the reality is, I wouldn't focus on the money side of things because that is where it plays the most of your psychology. You want to focus on the statistical side of things. So you want to focus on probability, your sentiment. You want to focus on your confluence. What leads to your decisions, whether you're thinking to buy or whether you're thinking to sell. And when you do sell or buy, you want to focus on how much those trades are going to close in profit. You want to kind of remove the sense of the financial gain of things, especially at the very start, because trading is one of those things where it can play on your psychology a lot, and you want to be able to balance that and also remain profitable at the end of the trading week, at the end of the trading day. I would say I'm more experienced with trading foreign exchange rather than stocks, but I do have some experience trading stocks, so at some point there will come a video once I've kind of put more effort into understanding the markets a lot more. Personally, I'm more focused on US 30 and NAS 100 and the pairs that make up those, stocks. So, of course, going back to my main point, the blueprint. Now, I initially made a switch into a non-profitable trader into a profitable trader when I realized that the money element of this trading stuff, it wasn't really the most significant factor. Of course, it is very attractive to be able to find setups that are going to pay five figures, even from a small trade, But the question is, I always ask myself, is that, how consistent would it be? How consistent would it be to make $100 a day for 5 days a week? If you could make $100 a day, 5 days a week, and all of a sudden make 1,000, would you do 1,000 every single day? It is quite unrealistic. You want to be able to have a plan so it can be realistic and it can be a consistent occurrence. Because the reality is, if you are making $100 a day, you have to build upon the strategy that is allowing you to make the $100 a day. So what I'd recommend people doing is first take a step back, understand their strategy, try and be consistent with that strategy, and you go from there. Also, there are a lot of people selling signals, selling group chats that are offering people trade setups, right? My honest opinion is don't pay too much mind to those, especially if you don't know why people are placed in those positions, because the reality is they're just broadcasting messages a lot of the times for a professional sitting on their desk, sending positions and everybody just broadcasting it. You don't really know any reason behind why those trades are being sent, which I really feel like you should know. And also, those trades, you don't know how late they've come after that initial setup has taken place, So when it comes to trading, I definitely recommend, of course, spending enough time to understand the strategy that works, whether you're looking for breakouts, whether you're looking for buy, sells, and having a setup around that, whether you're looking for, if you're trading a confluence system and the market is, rejecting a lower low, and you're looking to kind of get in as an early entry for a buy setup, and maybe the market is even consolidating on a higher time frame, and you're waiting for a setup where you can kind of reverse and come back down to another significant zone. These are all things that you need to pay attention to, because when you do find those positions and you do take them, you don't want it to play a psychological effect on you. You want to treat this like a business. I would say you've got to learn how to manage your money outside of trading before you can have a psychological uplifting boost in terms of your trading as well, because it all plays a pivotal role. If you're the type of person that is an irrational spender, I really and highly doubt you'll probably be successful trading in the long run, because it does take a certain type of character to be in trading for a very, very long time. It's one of those things where you have to kind of, you know, you have to really take a step back and understand, because you can be profitable, you can make a lot of money trading, you can definitely hit your targets, especially with FTMO, you can get to the 10% profit target, you know, you can get your first payout, you know, but if you want that to be consistent, if you want to treat it like a business where you can expect to have a return at the end of the month, what is it going to take? It's going to take a plan, and you have to plan it. It's just like your spending. You have to do your accounting. You have to know what your budget is, how much you can spend here, how much you're going to save, how much you're going to, you know, put towards your social life. These are all things that you need to consider in trading as well. And my personal opinion is, especially as it's a probability game, nothing in trading is definitive, especially the market conditions. We can only base this on probability. You know, of course, with our systems, if you want to go quite advanced into it, you can obviously build a system that works around probability, whether you might have an A+ setup or B+ setup or C+ setup, or in between. You could maybe have a setup where an A+ could stand for 95% chance based on the amount of trial and error you put into it. You would know for certain that is a A+ setup. You can have a B+ setup or B- setup. You know, these all come from placing positions, building the history, the track record through your journal, and understanding, and then kind of putting that on a scale on your probability calendar, and then knowing. But the reality is, of course, you can have an A+ setup that works 95 to 99% of the time, but there are some instances where it might not work, and how are you going to respond to that? That's the question you need to ask yourself when trading. And now, of course, I understand this. I've also tried to make my my mindset towards trading a lot better. I've taken a step back. I've really tried to build a system that can also trade the markets hands-free. I have a system that highlights this. I have a risk management tool that manages this, where I don't need to trade with my hands at all. I can let it run. Even when the market kind of goes into, you know, a news kind of event setup where the market is constantly spiraling, wicks going up and down, you know, my expert advisor will of course not trade during those news periods, because I've set it in that way. You know, especially with high probability setups that I might have in my personal manual trading setup, my expert advisor might even spot that before I even get a chance to open my PC. You know, so of course, spend time understanding your setup, understanding your strategy, and of course, that can be used to then implement your trading strategy, and that is how you become a profitable trader for the long run. Because don't get me wrong, there is money in trading, of course. You know, if you want to look at the greats, people who have been trading for 10, 15, 20 years, people who have made millions, turned 10,000 to 100,000, 100,000 to a few million. You know, of course, people who have had situations where they've done that, they've lost it all. You know, sometimes you have to take a step back, understand these different people's stories, tailor your experience, tailor your situation into how they have done things profitably, what I'm saying to you, what you can do, and back test, form some concrete plan, and stick to it in a trading setup. I want to say thank you for watching. This is JORCATION. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.